All right, and we are live. What is up, YouTube boxing family? It is K right here, back with another good
All right.
video for y'all today. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. I just figured that I come on here to talk my talk and just discuss boxing with y'all. So yeah, let's get right to it, man. Um, there has been recent reports stating that Devin Haney versus George Kambosos is set in stone to be made for Undisputed at the lightweight division. That is what sources are saying, but I don't believe that to be true. But for what we know, Devin Haney has now signed his end of the bargain for Undisputed to be taken place. Hopefully, if everything goes well with him and George Kambosos through negotiations, where Devin is basically, wanting the fight. So theoretically, if the fight does get made, we should be seeing this fight be made sometime in June 4th, coming this summer. But here's the catch with it, and you guys aren't gonna like it. But for all the big time Devin Haney fans, including myself, those who really love boxing and do boxing, understand the sport. Devin Haney is in a really really bad position, and he is doing the same thing that Jack Johnson is doing against Tommy Burns back in the early 1900s, predating to 1908, if I'm not mistaken. But Devin Haney is doing something that no other fighter would do, where he is having to go to another man's homeland and basically let himself be the B side, fighting a guy that does not deserve to be the A side at all in George Kambosos, because Devin is the A side, but Devin decided to take this risk to go all the way out to Australia, with all the precautionary requirements, and it's absolutely disgusting because Australian boxing fans are not really that intelligent. They're just as stupid as British boxing fans. But the sad part about it is that Australian boxing fans, they don't really have like a good mindset coming into the sport, and they're just as mentally retarded, if not dumber, than any other boxing fans compared to the Mexican boxing fans. But definitely the European boxing fans are really not that smart when it comes to boxing. But in regards to this fight between Devin Haney and George Kambosos, this fight is a three-fight deal. For what the recent reports are stating, Devin is basically being forced to fight three times against George Kambosos. Well, actually, no, I think it's a two-fight deal, but there's a catch to it. ESPN and Top Rank are getting involved to have Devin Haney be victorious if he does beat George Kambosos. Either way, whoever is going to win out of those two fights will have to be forced to face, Vasil Hightech Lomachenko for all the belts. So basically, Top Rank has, the fix in, and I think we already know what's going to happen. If Devin Haney goes to Australia and let's just say he's doing so good for the first 10 rounds, but George Kambosos fucks around and tries to hurt Devin, and he drops Devin or does something, really weird to the point where he gets some form of political protectionism where Devin has to be careful with how he throws a shot before he gets DQ'd. Um, yeah, that's definitely bad news for Devin. And I think the judging over there is not going to be on Devin's side. It's all going to be George Kambosos' side. And I don't really think a lot of people really like George Kambosos out there. I personally find it hard to believe that George Kambosos has a shot to actually have actual fans that really do like him. And I just don't think he really cares about boxing to the degree of him wanting to be great in the sport, because he thinks he's undisputed when clearly he is not. And Coach Javier Centeno understands, he isn't undisputed, and he's just using that just to flare up his name because he knows that Devin Haney is, the nightmare in the entire division. And, if you want to keep your spot of being the best lightweight in the world, then you got to face Devin Haney, because you're doing the same thing that Teofimo Lopez, was being flamed for, including, many other lightweights in the division that don't want to have any problems with Devin Haney. But yet, here you are doing the same thing. And history always comes to repeat itself 9 times out of 10. So I just find it really weird, and I find it really, really disrespectful from George Kambosos' end to try to act like as if he has leverage in the game when clearly he really doesn't. He's not that good of a fighter. He's already shown himself to the world of what type of fighter he is in the Teofimo fight, a fight in which he was barely even winning. Um, I would actually not even say that he was doing good in the fight. He was winning the majority of the rounds, but he was barely like hanging on to Teofimo's power and Teofimo's punching, pressure. And Teofimo, a focused version of him, would actually give George Kambosos a lot more trouble. And I think George Kambosos would have fucked around and lost against Teofimo in that fight. So I just don't understand why George Kambosos thought it was actually funny to just be playing mind games with Devin Haney, and I think it's really rude. I think it's rude on his end to not give Devin Haney what he promised to him, to say, look, after I finish my business with Teofimo, then I'll basically make the fight with you, and that will be set in stone. But unfortunately, George Kambosos decided not to do that, and he decided to prolong this longer than expected, and here we are in a really bad position. So Devin is actually in a really bad spot where he can't really do the things that he actually really wants to do, which is, dare to be great for Undisputed. And I don't know. I think honestly, this is all going to turn into like a Wilder versus Fury type of series, and I really hope that it really doesn't. I think Devin, he needs to start considering making sure that there's no cheating in this fight, because we all know what George Kambosos is going to do. He's going to probably tell Devin, you have to wear a certain type of gloves, where you wear gloves that aren't going to hit me, and I can wear gloves that, that's going to hit you harder, and just do something out of the fucking nonsensical bloom. You could already see it coming. You could already see that George Kambosos, he is just waiting for that opportunity to happen. But even though that he doesn't want to fight Devin, it's still going to show within the fight that him and Devin Haney is not going to be a fair, clean fight. Think about it, man. You're going over to another piece of shit's, piece of shit fighter's hometown, and basically all the odds are going to be stacked against Devin. And then on top of that, he's probably going to be, basically slandered by the media, top rank and ESPN. They're they're going to be talking all the shit in the world towards Devin. But I think Devin, he's going to go out there and he's going to do his thing. And I really do believe he actually needs to knock out George Kambosos. And I really hope he does, because it's this is a big fight. This is a fight that you cannot give up. And even though that this is 3 fights total, I would at least try to get the victory in Australia. Oh, and by the way, these fights that Devin's going to have with Kambosos, they're all in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not so sure what the reports are actually being accurate about. But I heard it's either going to be in Australia, or it's going to be the first fight in America, and then the second fight will be in Australia, which I truly believe Devin is going to basically honestly, how I see this playing out is that if Devin wins, the first fight, then yeah, credit to him. He is undisputed, but there's going to be a major catch to it. Devin's going to be forced to, fight Kambosos for a second time, because Devin can't vacate his belts. He has to defend those belts, and that's going to be against Kambosos for the second time for a rematch, including Vasyl Lomachenko. So this is where the corruption starts to heat itself heat itself up, because Devin, he's going to be in such a bad position where he cannot get out of this contract. He's going to be forced against his will to basically play Top Rank's evil scheme game, to basically be fighting under their promotional banner. In which, I mean, Devin, he could he could easily bring things to court if things really do get really bad as far as the contract negotiations, because I'm pretty sure Top Rank, they're going to try to make Devin Haney like a slave to a certain degree, where he doesn't really have too much say. He doesn't have too much promotional grab at, as far as what fights he he wants to he wants to campaign at. But I really do hope that the business itself doesn't screw him over, because he is his own boss, to a particular degree, that is good. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with Top Rank and Bob Arum. And I think whatever Bob Arum wants to be done, he's gonna try to tell Devin what to do, try to make him do certain things that he doesn't want to do, and that's gonna be a very, very bad look as far as where things are gonna go. So I think what Devin needs to do, he needs to make sure that he has his attorneys, set in stone, and make sure that he's not being taken advantage of, because this is a really, really bad. How should I say? This is a really, really bad deal that Devin just signed into, and whatever Top Rank and Bob Arum will try to do is that they are going to try extremely hard to make sure Devin, does not, basically win, those titles, or they will try to at least feed Devin to Lomachenko, in which I don't think Lomachenko will be the problem, because if Lomachenko never wanted to fight Devin then, what makes anyone think Lomachenko will fight Devin Haney now? So I just don't see how Lomachenko would want to fight Devin, knowing that he has stated in multiple occasions that Devin Haney, he's boring. He's not that type of fighter where that really interests him. So I think what's going to happen is just that Devin, he's going to be put in a position where, even if Lomachenko actually has the balls to fight Devin, and let's just say he beats Devin Haney, okay, fine. That still doesn't mean that you're better than him. I mean, yeah, you got the best of him, but why didn't you just beat up Devin Haney when he was young, hungry? He did he never had a world title, and I just think, honestly, how Bob Arum visualized this fight inside his mind. He really thinks, Vasyl Lomachenko actually has a good chance to beating Devin Haney, when clearly that's just not going to be the case, because no matter what he thinks, that's no matter what he thinks that fight will play out, it's Lomachenko is already showing the energy of him wanting to beat up Kambosos as quickly as possible. But when it comes to Devin Haney, no, he don't want to fight Devin, because if he actually really did, it's him and Devin would have easily been made, at the beginning of 2018 or 2019. So it's that fight should have been done. But it's everybody wants to make up all these excuses to say why Lomachenko deserves a title shot, to fight George Kambosos, but yet they can't keep that same energy when Devin Haney was his mandatory, and Lomachenko petitioned to the WBC to get the WBC franchise belt to avoid Devin Haney. I don't care what anyone fucking says. Lomachenko is not this great white hope, legendary fighter that people try to prop him up to be. Because if he was that good of a fucking fighter, he would have been defeated Devin. He would have been defeated, every single fighter that we can think of. But it's he's not doing that. So, I just find it hard to believe that Lomachenko, will have the balls to fight Devin Haney, because he's gonna show that energy to say, "Oh no, Devin Haney, he has to show something to me. even though that he is the best lightweight in the world, you know, uh, Devin Haney, he ain't shit, blah blah blah. So I think what's going to happen is that Top Rank, they're going to start doing something really really grimy to try to make Devin hold on to those belts, so that way they can have somebody good enough to try to beat him. But I don't think anybody's going to actually beat him, because I just think like how Devin is actually moving his career, he's not gonna let Top Rank and Bob Arum try to fuck him over. And I just think like how things are gonna go is that that the fight itself is going to be that type of fight where like we really don't know if George Kambosos is gonna come in clean to that fight, because I will be confident enough to say that I believe Devin can easily defeat George Kambosos, because George Kambosos is not this type of fighter that people try to hype him up to be. But knowing that no one never knew about George Kambosos until he beat Teofimo Lopez, that just pretty much shows the lack of boxing IQ that people carry to actually study fighters. And Kano Loco Sports, shout out to him. He was like the only channel on YouTube to actually promote George Kambosos Jr. to that level, to say, wow, you know what? He's actually a really, really good fighter. And guess what? When I called in and I talked to Coach Javier Centeno, I asked him, hey, if this opportunity can be made between George and Devin, if George is successful in his fight against Teofimo Lopez, can we see that fight next? Or if Teofimo doesn't want to fight George, can George petition to the IBF and say that he wants to have his belt unified with Devin Haney? That was like a good option to go for. And guess what? Javier Centeno, he didn't want to give out, the full details, but he pretty much knew what I was actually talking about. And George Kambosos could have easily petitioned to the IBF to say, hey, I want my belt or my title shot to be unified with Devin Haney, because even though that George Kambosos, he wants to become, world champion so fucking bad, it's like, okay, why not do that with Devin? For obviously for the WBC and the IBF, but obviously with the WBO and the WBA, that can easily be taken down. Eventually, where Tiafimo, he's gonna like theoretically, let's just say if George and Devin fought, and let's just say George beat Devin, and then Devin beat George, in a rematch, then Devin and George will probably see each other again for, let's just say, maybe like a third fight, but it's going to be for like a unification or for Undisputed. But let's just say at that time frame, if Tiafimo really never wanted to fight George and he just relinquished his IBF belt to let him fight whoever he needed to fight, which would have been Isaac Cruz Gonzalez for the IBF belt, or he could have unified with Devin, that still would have made Teofimo Lopez in big trouble for him to defend his belt to either Gervonta Tank Davis or possibly Michelle Lazarza Rivera. And don't forget, Michelle, well, actually, no. Teofimo, he, at that point in time, he was at the super champion. So basically, the regular champion, which would be Gervonta, he would have had to petition to the WBA to fight Teo, but obviously, knowing how Mayweather Promotions is with Top Rank, I don't think Floyd Mayweather would have, wanted to make that fight. But honestly, that fight would have, eventually been called for, because nobody doesn't want to be dealing, with, all these big fights being left out. And especially between Tio and Tank at that time, a lot of people were calling for that fight. So theoretically, if that fight, was made for it to happen, Teofimo Lopez and Gervonta Tank Davis would have been the fight for Teofimo to go through. In which, honestly, that's why that I want to see the WBA super belt taken out of boxing, because it's like there should only be one belt per sanctioned body. If you guys want to be, politically egotistical to say that there needs to be sanctioned bodies in boxing, which is absolutely bullshit and very like I should say uncalled for. But it's just like, honestly, sanctioned bodies don't prove who is like the best in the world, because obviously, like we've just seen Ebony Bridges just get a title shot fighting two absolute nobodies that people knew, and actually in one of their in one of her previous fights against that French lady, she arguably lost that fight, and a lot of people knew that she wasn't that good to begin with. So I don't really care, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more like, well, actually, no, I do care, but at the end of the day, you cannot tell me that Ebony Bridges deserved to get a title shot against Maria Roman, and she was losing the fight against Maria Roman in that fight itself. But at the same token, you just can't say to me that Maria Roman needed to fight Ebony, because Ebony was like, she was ranked number 9 by the by the IBF, and she didn't beat anybody out of the rankings to actually beat her. And then on top of that, it's like she wasn't even her mandatory. So, Ebony Bridges was obviously politically set up, for political reasons that Matchroom and Eddie Hearn wanted to get her set up for. So, it was absolutely dog shit, and then it was absolutely stupid, because you can easily tell that Ebony, she was not supposed to be in that position, and I don't understand why she thought that she had a chance in hell to actually even win that fight against Maria Roman. But the judges were there in the UK protecting her to make sure that she solidified that victory. But it's not to really even say that she's that good of a world championship level fighter, because she proves it in the ring that she's not made for the world title level. So I mean, to hell with all the sanction bodies, because you don't have to get get undisputed for all the belts just to prove how good you are. As long as you keep fighting the best and you keep defeating the best names in your division, then I don't think anybody should really be talking about how you how you have to be respected for being undisputed, knowing that if you had to obviously, if you had to strategically duck your way through just to gain undisputed in your division, like a Terrence Bud Crawford, then yeah, definitely, that's definitely not going to make you certified as a undisputed world champion. Same thing with Josh Taylor, because Josh Taylor, everybody wants to say he beat everybody in his division, but he had to get political protectionism in order for him to become undisputed. So therefore, after the Regis Prograis victory that was held in the UK, knowing that Regis Prograis arguably beat him, that a lot of people were not even wanting to see like a fucking rematch, but still, Josh was Josh was clearly struggling with Regis Prograis, and Regis Prograis was beating the living crap out of him in that fight. And even though it was a hard fought competitive level fight, but still Regis Prograis showed enough separation in his game to make Josh Taylor struggle, knowing that that fight had a lot of controversy to it. But compare that to Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. Funny how Josh Taylor wants to go all the way out to America to fight, Jose Ramirez, because he knows he has, everything, in the bag to beat him. But on top of that, but the judging out there was favored for Josh Taylor, because, obviously, if you have the political backing through Top Rank in order to win your fight, then of course, more people like Josh Taylor would be doing that. And I think that's pretty much the same thing for Michaela Mayer, because she's gonna try to do something stupid where she's gonna try to, basically duck her way through to try to wait for the right time to unify with Alicia Baumgartner. But I think that's gonna be for undisputed. I think it's gonna be that clash of heads will start to occur when Alicia makes her move to unify her WBC and IBO belt with Queen Mi Choi, that South Korean chick. So I think that fight will definitely be made sooner than later, and I think eventually, that will be set in stone. But I think honestly, um, Alicia Baumgartner, if she's able to get her way to defeat Queen Mi Choi and who's the other girl, Michaela Mayer, then that will definitely speak a lot of volume of the political corruption in women's boxing. But for her to beat everybody with all the odds stacked against her, that's definitely a really huge certified victories for it. But in Devin Haney's case, that's pretty much what Devin has to do. He has to go to everyone's backyard just to prove that he is the best fighter out there. And I mean, at this point, Devin Haney, he's a people's champion. He's a very good high level class fighter, and you have to give the kid his or you have to give up the man uh his respect. And I definitely respect everything that Devin has done for his career, and I definitely have to give a huge shout out to his father, Bill Haney, for just going through all the tough tough moments with Devin. And I really hope things get better. I really hope that Undisputed can be solidified under Devin's name, and Devin Haney can be the very first four belt era youngest undisputed lightweight world champion, coming in at 23 years old. So that's a huge mega accomplishment, and I definitely have to give Devin his props because not a lot of guys would do something like that, to go over to somebody's backyard that never deserved to be the A side to basically be the B side in order to be great. Because if Devin can pull this off, and let's just say he beats up, Lomachenko and beats up Kambosos twice, that's going to speak a lot of volumes. And I definitely have to give Devin his props because there's just so much history being put on the table that this fight is going to be historic, just like Jack Johnson versus Tommy Burns. And I really hope Devin can achieve this goal because Devin knows how great of a fighter he is just to take this, ultimate risk. So I really hope Devin can definitely achieve this victory because I think Devin's going to be good enough to actually get the job done. But at the end of the day, styles make fights, and I think this is going to be a good, interesting style for Devin to figure out. And I think once Devin figures out George Kambosos, I think it's already over. I don't see George Kambosos doing good against Devin in the late game and early game. I think maybe in the mid game he might have some success where he's able to punch Devin at good spots to wobble him, but I don't think Devin's chinny. I think Devin, when you hit him at a good spot, he loses a little bit of focus, but he's able to regain his composure as a fighter, and he's able to do more, in the fight itself in order to win. So I definitely give Devin a lot of credit because it takes balls to actually do something that crazy, to take a really bad, crappy deal out of a top rank that would most likely be viewed as a slave contract. And I really hope Devin can be given that opportunity to just show the world why he is pound for pound number one in the lightweight division, because his style is definitely that type of style where he could easily beat a lot of favored fighters that people really be propping up. But let's just hope that Devin, he can get his opportunity because George Kambosos has not fully agreed to the terms or to the contract itself. So hopefully he can sign it, and if we can get an official shit, sorry, if we can get an official fight date, then I will be forever, excited. So Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick little update for Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, contractual negotiation updates, and hopefully Devin Haney can do what he has to do to solidify that victory, and hopefully that will be the fight where Devin can show the world why he is, the best lightweight in the world. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how good Devin is going to, showcase his skills and talents as a fighter. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Devin Haney is going to get this fight? And do you think Devin he needs to make sure that he has to watch out for any possible corruption being made for this fight? Because it seems like Devin, he should be straight as far as getting the fight made, but as far as like what George Kambosos is gonna try to do to try to cheat his way in to try to make the fight easier for him to like try to beat Devin on some bullshit. I think that's probably what's gonna happen, but I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. Hope you guys enjoy this quick little live, and yep, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.